Good morning, Rashawn. Thank you for joining us as always.
Oh, my goodness. The Washington, D.C. fiasco continues as 4.4 million COVID-19 cases in America, over 150,000 COVID-19 deaths in America, Matt. The GOP bill that you talked about is titled the Health Economic Assistance Liability Protection and Schools Act, HEALS, H-E-A-L-S. Catchy name, but Mitch McConnell stated he will not introduce a bill on the Senate floor that does not have COVID-19 liability protection for business or healthcare workers. But check this out, Matt. The $1 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package did include $8 billion in Pentagon weapon systems, F-35 fighters, Apache helicopters, $2.2 billion for shipbuilding. It restores cuts made by the administration to divert money for border wall construction, and $1.8 billion to build a new FBI building. What all that has to do with trying to save the millions of Americans from financially being strapped during the pandemic, I don't know. I just wanted to point that out to you.
Yeah.
That was part of the proposal. And HEALS. War and HEALS. It makes sense to me, but wanted to point that out to you.
Yeah, well, Senate Leader Mitch McConnell even saying, look, by the end of this, we hope we only get COVID relief, and that's it. He was complaining about some of the proposals put forth as well. We do know, Rashawn, though, that they want to reduce the $600 to $200 a month. Democrats pushing back, arguing that cutting that payment is bad policy and hard to implement. So it would basically equal no more than 70% of a person's previous income. How is that? How do you think that will go over?
Okay, let's go back to the numbers, because we're all about the numbers here, because America is just talking numbers every day, and right now they're not adding up good for us. As I told you last week, July 31st, which happened in Georgia, July 25th, more than 25 million Americans would lose the extra $600 that you're talking about. Republicans wanted to drop to $200. The Democrats want to keep it at $600. Also, the package that was approved in May by the Democrats was a $3 trillion package. The Republicans are introducing a $1 trillion package. So you see, it's a big, big problem we have here. Also, more than 26% of adults reported missing last month's rent. That's important to note here. 26% of the adults, and none of them have confidence that they're going to make August rent. And then, finally, more than 23 million renters are at risk of being evicted by September 30th. That includes undocumented individuals, low-income renters, and renters of color. So when you talk about going from 600 to 200, I got to tell you about these numbers here, Matt, because it's the reality that we're dealing with, and we're over there trying to approve bills that Mitch McConnell said he opposed the $1.8 billion for the building, the FBI building. But guess what? We're playing with numbers, and people out there, and we have to say not only getting sick, but they're dying and about to get thrown out of their homes and not able to feed their families.
Yeah. When you're talking numbers, Rashawn, the thing that pops out to me, and maybe this is just, maybe I'm naive, but there are, 15 million people who lost jobs, and there are not 15 million job openings. Is there really that argument that people are is the argument out there, is it true that people aren't going to work because they're making more on unemployment? I mean, that's the whole Republican argument for lowering the aid.
Well, they do have on the show, we've discussed this before. There's not new news to us talking about that $600. And I gave an example of Georgia where if this is every week, 17 straight weeks, you'd have gotten a check for $600. In Georgia, the maximum you can make is $365 for unemployment. That's up to $965. You can still, under the CARES Act. Now they're going to rename it the HEALS Act, but the previous act was the CARES Act that's going to expire July 31st. You could have worked up to $300 a week. So as a part-time person, you could have made $1,265. That is more than 68% of the employed people in America. So that's where they're going to. But what is hurting is the people who need the money the most. Because also in this new HEALS plan, they're not going to increase food stamps. So when you look at this overall plan, it's really affecting, like I stated, undocumented workers, low-income people, and people of color. And these are the people who are always trampled on every year. It is a plan. I feel they should reduce it by $400. But here's the problem, though. If they would just tell people that when they made this new law normally when you file for unemployment, man, you have to be looking for a job. During the pandemic, because the country got shut down, there was no jobs to look for. So when they passed it, they took away that law, that little stipulation. They need to put that stipulation back in there, and I feel that would cure our problem. Put the stipulation in. If they're not looking for a job, they're not going out for interviews, then we'll take away that $600 a week. But I don't think they should take away the $600 a week. But if they keep that stipulation in there, then we're going to have a problem, and people will not look for any job because they'll be making more money sitting at the house.
Is the sense of urgency not there for Washington right now?
Well, when you're trying to put in F-35 fighters and you're trying to build FBI buildings, and also trying to rebuild a wall, there's no urgency. And that's the sad part about it, because guess what? People are losing. When I come on this show, and I always want to thank you for allowing me to speak honestly with you, is that people are losing their jobs, which means they're losing their jobs. That means that potentially they're losing their lives. When I see the false narratives being put out about masks and about drugs and being put on social media, and before they get taken down, they get viewed by 13 million people. We are in a country of total confusion and emotional collapse because we're not being led properly. And by not being led properly, and we're seeing protests, we're seeing federal agents being sent out to deal with the general public. And then we see that the Black Lives Matter movement is not a black movement. It's a movement that is incorporated with a lot of white people who are at the forefront of change. So with all that being said, we are in a bad situation, and it's all going to come down to the November election. That's what it's all going to come down to. That's when the ultimate change, when America's going to say enough is enough, America's going to say we want 4 more years of Trump.
And as you've pointed out, with the mixed messaging, really corporations are leading the way, and with mask requirements.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness, because what would we be if these corporations didn't step up and say, hey, I'm going to tell you something, that goes all back to liability. And we talked about that insurance plays a major role, because a lot of schools are now saying, hey, you can come back to school if you sign this release form, which right there is a testament that there's a problem if you ask me to sign a release form for my child to go back to your school. And so that's where we're at right now, is that, when a Costco led the way from jump, Walmart and a lot of places like Walmart, they meet you outside the door. They make it comfortable. They don't allow you to actually get into the building. A lot of stores allow you to get in the buildings. But Costco led the way from jump. Whole Foods led the way from jump, saying, hey, mask wearing is a requirement. But that, I believe, when you start seeing things like they're slowing down or it's curving back, that's because these corporations have sat down and said, hey, we have to protect ourselves, but also let's send a message to America that there is a need to wear these facial masks, even though there's no state-by-state mandate, and also there's no state mandate or national mandate coming out of the White House.
Rushion McDonald, we appreciate your time as always. All of our money-making conversations with Rushion McDonald are uploaded to his Money-Making Conversations channel on YouTube. We'll do it again next week, same time. Thank you so much.
Hopefully we have a stimulus package that's approved by then, because America needs it, my man. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you, sir. Take us with you wherever you go. Download the TalkStream Live free mobile app. Reach out to yours truly on social media, Twitter or Facebook at @MattRayTalk. Use the hashtag AFN. More breaking news on the way on this Wednesday morning. It's the 29th day of July. You've got America's First News. America.